In the late 1960s, American cities were undergoing dramatic changes. The Vietnam War was still ongoing. Young people were taking to the streets to protest. Society was filled with tension and uncertainty. Against this backdrop, people's understanding of sports and physical activity was also very different from today. For most Americans, sports belonged to two types of people. One was professional athletes. The other was students. Ordinary adults rarely participated in sports, especially running. Back then, if someone wore athletic clothes and ran down a city street, passers-by would often stop and look confused. In many places, jogging wasn't yet a concept people understood. The word jogging itself was rarely used at the time. If an adult went for a run in their neighborhood, neighbors might find it strange. Some might even think the person was in trouble. In certain cities, police would occasionally stop joggers. Not because they broke any laws, but because officers were worried something was wrong. This isn't an exaggerated story. In American society at the time, running almost exclusively belonged to competitive sports. It existed on high school tracks, college stadiums, and in the Olympic arena. But it had no place in ordinary people's lives. In the late 1960s, one of America's most famous long-distance races, the New York City Marathon. In the 1970 race, only 127 runners participated. The course didn't go through the entire city either. It simply looped around Central Park. There weren't many spectators. Media coverage was minimal. Back then, no one could have imagined that, just a few years later, the social atmosphere would shift. The late 1960s marked a period of transformation in American society. Young people were beginning to rethink their lifestyles. People's focus on health, the body, and quality of life was slowly increasing. But at that time, most Americans still didn't know how to exercise regularly. Gym culture hadn't taken off yet. Treadmills were almost unheard of. The concept of fitness was far from becoming a popular lifestyle trend. For the average person, exercise usually meant some kind of formal sport, like baseball, basketball, or tennis. These sports required courts, equipment, and teammates. And for many adults, those conditions weren't easy to meet. It was in this context that a new form of exercise quietly began entering American society. This form of exercise was incredibly simple. No court needed. No equipment needed. No team needed either. It required just one thing: moving your legs. A key figure behind this shift was a track and field coach from Oregon. His name was Bill Bowerman. Bowerman was the famous track and field coach at the University of Oregon. During his coaching career, he trained many outstanding long-distance runners. But Bowerman's interest wasn't limited to competitive sports. He kept thinking about one question: is running only for athletes? Or could ordinary people also benefit from running? In the early 1960s, Bowerman traveled to New Zealand. There, he encountered something that surprised him. In New Zealand's parks and streets, many ordinary people did a relaxed form of running every day. This wasn't competitive training. The pace wasn't fast. The rhythm was easy. People called it jogging. For Bowerman, this was a completely new idea. In America, running was usually linked to competition and performance. But in New Zealand, people ran just for their health. They didn't care about speed and rankings. They just ran. Bowerman gradually realized that this simple form of exercise might be perfect for American society, because it had almost no barriers to entry. Anyone could start. Back in the United States, Bowerman decided to promote this idea. He began organizing jogging groups in his community. At first, not many people joined. Many found this kind of exercise unfamiliar. But Bowerman didn't give up. In 1967, he co-authored a book with New Zealand coach Arthur Lydiard. The book's title was very simple: Jogging. This wasn't a complex sports training manual. Its content was very basic. The book introduced the fundamentals of jogging. For example, how to start jogging, how to gradually increase distance, how to avoid injury. More importantly, the book conveyed a very simple message. Running isn't just for athletes. Ordinary people can run too. The book quickly sparked interest among some readers. Many people began trying this new form of exercise. They discovered jogging wasn't as hard as they'd imagined. It didn't require complicated preparation either. Just a pair of shoes and a road to run on. As the idea of jogging gradually spread, some communities began organizing jogging groups. The earliest jogging clubs appeared on college campuses and in city parks. These clubs didn't emphasize competition. They focused more on health and socializing. People would gather in the early morning or evening, run together, then chat, share training experiences. This relaxed approach quickly attracted more and more people. Jogging slowly evolved from a novel experiment into a steady habit. The emergence of jogging also began changing people's views on running. In the past, running was seen as a very strenuous activity. Only professional athletes did long-distance running. But jogging introduced a different idea. Running doesn't have to be fast. Running doesn't have to be competitive either. It can be relaxing, a form of meditation, even a way of life. This idea resonated with the cultural changes happening in 1970s America. People were starting to focus on themselves, on health, on balance between body and mind. Jogging perfectly met these needs. By the early 1970s, the number of joggers in America had noticeably increased. More and more people were running in parks and on streets. Though still not a huge crowd, this activity was no longer as unusual as it had been a few years earlier. Jogging was gradually becoming an accepted behavior. In some cities, people even began organizing small road races. These events weren't large in scale, but they laid the foundation for bigger races to come. The jogging movement was slowly spreading, like a seed, taking root in society. However, in the early 1970s, jogging was still just a budding trend. What would truly get all of America running needed a few key events. The rise of Olympic champions, the birth of running heroes, and the growth of city marathons. These factors would together spark an unprecedented wave of athletic participation. An era later called the running boom. By the early 1970s, America's jogging movement was still a growing trend. More and more people were trying it, but numbers remained limited. In many city streets, runners were still an uncommon sight. Jogging clubs had just appeared, and community road races were in their infancy. Running culture was forming, but hadn't yet entered the mainstream. Then, in 1972, an Olympic race changed everything. In the summer of 1972, Munich, West Germany hosted the 20th Olympic Games. The Games captured the attention of billions worldwide. In the men's marathon, an American runner became the center of attention. His name was Frank Shorter. Shorter wasn't the favorite going in. Long-distance running had long been dominated by European and African athletes. But on that day, Shorter ran the race of his life. In the second half, he gradually pulled away from the competition. As he entered Munich's Olympic Stadium, the crowd erupted. He crossed the finish line, winning the Olympic marathon gold medal. It was America's biggest victory in the marathon in decades. Frank Shorter's victory didn't just happen in the stadium. It also happened on television screens. In the 1970s, TV had become America's most important mass medium. Millions of families watched the Olympics from their living rooms. When Shorter entered the stadium, countless American viewers sat watching live. They saw an American runner win Olympic gold in the marathon. That image had a huge impact. Many people realized for the first time, long-distance running could be this thrilling. More importantly, the marathon no longer seemed like just an elite athlete's domain. Ordinary people began thinking, if he can run a marathon, maybe I can run too. Around the same time, American track and field saw the rise of a charismatic runner, Steve Prefontaine. His racing style was incredibly compelling. Prefontaine's appeal came not just from his results, but from his personality. In 1970s America, many young people sought freedom and self-expression. Prefontaine's attitude perfectly matched that spirit. He was frank, direct, and intensely confident. Prefontaine became a kind of symbol. He wasn't just an athlete. He represented the spirit of running culture. The emergence of Olympic champions and running heroes gave the jogging movement new momentum. More and more people started running. On college campuses, students began mimicking the training of long-distance runners. In city parks, ordinary people tried jogging for themselves. At first, they didn't run far, and care about speed either. They just wanted to experience the activity. This shift quickly spread across American society. By the mid-1970s, a new sight appeared in many American cities each morning. On park paths, along riverside trails, down neighborhood streets, more and more people in athletic wear were jogging. They weren't professional athletes. Just ordinary people. Some were students, office workers, and middle-aged, hoping to stay healthy through running. Running was gradually becoming a new way of life. As the number of runners grew, various road races also began.